I have to salute Matt Clausen and Catherine Stahl and Steve Vetter and their whole team for what they've done from Partners of the Americas and the BBC Campus Engagement Group. It's been a heroic effort to put this together, and it's been years in the making. It's been a glimmer in Catherine's eyes for many years, and it's just a joy and privilege to see it coming together so wonderfully. And I just want to salute the incredible team that's made this happen, so thank you. I also want to welcome everyone. It's so nice to have the Partners of the Americas global family with us as part of this meeting, and to have such wonderful constituents that cut across many sectors, from volunteer sending organizations to universities and colleges, policymakers, representatives from government agencies. It's terrific to just see all actors in this grand symphony, as Matt calls it, coming together to work together towards a common goal. I'd like to start by asking a question. How many people in this room have at one time been an international volunteer and served in a country other than your own home country? Who's volunteered abroad here? What a unique point in time we're at. What an incredible, historic opportunity we have right now. As former volunteers, much like myself, coming back from an international experience, in my case coming home to the United States, I was filled with a sense of realization about the cultural isolation that we lived in this country. This was almost 20 years ago, but at that time there were large walls around our country in terms of awareness, which have been broken down over the years through a series of numbers of events, some tragic, some wonderful. 9/11 was certainly a teaching moment for this country. Through the tragic events of 9/11, we learned that what happens overseas does affect us back home. It does matter what happens in other countries, and it does affect us in our own home country. Through the internet and globalization, we learn that the world is a much smaller place, and so the cultural perspective in the U.S., I think, has shifted. At one point, I think the public's awareness of other cultures and countries was more defined by our differences. And I think as international volunteers, we came home to feel the tension of that. Those that had served overseas invariably saw the wonderful hospitality of people. They saw the incredible capacity of people in other countries to solve their own problems. And they saw the world as a global family where our similarities are much more powerful than our differences. Our differences, to those that might see the world from afar, might be more apparent. Differences such as language and culture, food and dress. But when people of different countries come together at this grassroots level, they learn that we're really all the same. That we all care about our children, our safety, the peace of our community and our world, our access to what are our own human rights, such as education and health and clean water and many other rights that we all have as human beings. And for many of us that have served overseas, it's ignited a passion to work in this field. And until about 5 or 6 years ago, it was an uphill battle. We were banging our heads against walls, either preaching to the choir, to those that were already converted, or trying to get across to those that didn't understand the value of international service, why it's important. Well, through the events that I've mentioned, this country and this world has gone through an incredible transformation where, unbelievably enough, we've seen in the last election and in the first days of this new presidency, a candidate emerged who, and this is not political, I'm talking, it's more a reflection of our nation, A candidate who stood up and said, I believe more in the oneness of our human family. I believe more in our similarities than our differences, and I seek to solve the world's global challenges through focusing on our shared humanity and not on our differences. And the American people, to the great joy of the rest of the world that was watching, supported that view of the world. And so today we live in a world where the former international volunteers of the world are not banging our heads against the wall anymore. We live in a world where our values and our ideals of solving tough global challenges through people-to-people action, focusing on partnership and respect, this has become our nation's agenda, our president's priorities. And it's also become the walk and the talk of the people of this country and many other countries around the world. We've heard a lot about the early days of Peace Corps. When Peace Corps was founded, as Senator Wofford mentioned, the numbers in all of these years has wavered between 8 and 15,000. Well, 20 years ago, it was pretty much the only option. There were a handful of organizations that were alternatives to the Peace Corps, and those numbers did not exceed the Peace Corps' numbers. The Peace Corps was the largest. Today, the Peace Corps is the minority volunteer sending organization. Today, between simply the organizations represented in this room far exceed the Peace Corps. In 2008, we're estimating it's about 62,000 American volunteers served overseas through programs such as the alternatives to the Peace Corps. And so we're living in a world where people are volunteering in record numbers. They're out there, they are solving global problems. Doctors are serving overseas. Teachers are teaching in communities around the world. We've got college students. We've got bridge year students. We have the baby boomers who are retiring, all out there and volunteering. I mean, it is happening right now. And I think the joy here and the excitement comes from the fact that if we are the believers, as you might call it, our time is now. This is our opportunity. The world has now recognized that international volunteering is important, and it's one of our pathways to a more prosperous world, to solving our global challenges and having a more peaceful world that we live in. And thankfully, this field is ready. We're organized, as we've mentioned today. Starting 4 years ago, this field came together in a way that we haven't seen in 50 years. And since then, our coalition has grown and grown and grown exponentially. We can't even keep track. The latest number I saw was 272 organizations. These are volunteer sending organizations, corporations, universities, government agencies, policymakers, all working collaboratively with a spirit of working together and the sentiment that a rising tide will lift all boats. And so we are front and center on a national priority. We're highly organized, we're highly effective. Our program's quality has been improving and improving over the years, and we have a great responsibility to act now. And as such, I'd like to just encourage everyone here, if you've been a part of the coalition and Brookings, and we've heard a lot of terms here, and hopefully over the next day we'll sort them all out for you. Service World is a beacon of hope for us all, and the National Center for Citizen Diplomacy. But if you're a part of this coalition, thank you for what you've done over these years. And if you're not, please join us. It's a big tent, and the welcome mat is out. We all have some serious, heavy lifting to do going forward. We want to invite everyone to join us, and the beeping is telling me that my time is up. But I think quite simply, what I want to say is working together, we can accomplish great things together, as we have. And there's a lot more to say that we'll be talking about over the coming days. But here's to a future of us building our common future in partnership with people around the world through our recognition of our shared humanity, that together we can solve the world's toughest challenges, and we can live in a world that's more prosperous and more peaceful for all of us. So thank you all.